Claire, are you okay?
There's someone in the living room. Can you please?
Claire, I can't hear you. You're... Claire? Claire? Can you hear me? The living room.
I don't know.
Explain to me, okay? What happened? Claire? Claire? Claire, are you still there?
In my closet.
Claire?
Closet.
I need you to speak clearly, okay? Where are
My
you?
closet.
What?
I'm hiding in my closet. He's here.
Okay, calm down. Did you invite anyone?
No.
Okay, stay in the closet.
No.
I'm gonna phone the police.
No.
Claire, stay with me. Everything is gonna be fine. Princess, I need you to stay with me, okay? You got the gun?
Yeah.
Stay with me.
He's coming. I love you, Dad.
Stay with me, Claire. You're strong. Strong like Mom. Stay with me.
I can hear him scratching.
Scratching? Claire. Claire, listen to me. Listen to me.
I can hear him.
What are you talking
scratching.
about?
He's not.
Claire?
He's not a...
Princess?
I think I saw Mr. Smiley.
Claire, stay where you are.
I didn't think he's real. Dad.
Claire, the cops are coming. Princess,
Dad?
are you there? Claire? 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 What's happening over there?
Mr. Smiley's here.
Claire? Claire, what the hell is going on?
Harry has a flat rate.
Who?
Smiley.
Claire, hold on.
Oh God, please.
Tell me about him, Claire. Claire. Claire.
He has claws. He's scratching the walls.
The cops are coming. Claire.
Dad, he's coming.
Shit. Claire.
Die!
Claire. 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 Princess, speak to me. Are you okay? Did you shoot him?
Dad.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. You're okay. Good.
Dad.
I'm just around the corner. I can see the cops arriving in front. Stay strong, Princess.
Dad.
I'm almost there. We're almost there, Claire.
Dad?
Yeah?
She shot me.
Wait,
But you should have seen her face.
who the fuck? Where's Claire?
She's smiling now.
As her morning ritual demanded, Lisa scrolled through dozens of social media notifications with groggy eyes first thing after waking. Her phone soon pinged with the promise of a new message notification, and she tapped to open it. That was it. A friendly winky face. She paused for a moment, puzzled over the strange message sent from an unknown number. then decided to text back. Without missing a beat, a message was swiftly typed back and sent. Lisa furrowed her eyebrows and pursed her lips, considering the message. Whoever was doing this had to be playing some sort of prank or just trolling around. She typed before hitting send, and the surefire response a few split seconds later. Deciding not to entertain whoever sent the messages, Lisa switched off her phone, slid out of bed, and promptly strolled to the shower, planning to continue her day unbothered. But when she exited the front door, car keys in hand, and strolled over to her car, Lisa spotted something eye-catching. Visibly and finely carved into the wooden bark of the oak tree in her front yard was a familiar symbol. The winky face seemed to smile mockingly. Lisa had to flicker her eyes over it multiple times to make sure she wasn't hallucinating. Hurrying over to her car, she slammed the door shut and sped away as far as she could from her home. Her day at work was less than productive, considering she checked her inbox at regular intervals to make sure the culprit hadn't sent any more messages, though thankfully none popped up. By the time it was time to knock off from work, she didn't return home, instead driving over to a trusted friend's place to stay for the night, hoping it'd make her feel safe. After settling into the guest room offered by her friend, a curtain rustling in the chilly breeze caught her attention. She strolled over and noticed that the window was slightly ajar, so she slid it down. As she fully closed it, something came into view. Blanching white with shock, Lisa inched her face closer to oogle what was scribbled with a finger into the frosted glass of the window. Just as her bulging eyes inched closer to fully view the winky face, the air whistled sharply as a blur of moving objects whizzed swiftly by before crashing into the window without warning and striking Lisa right in the face, causing her entire body to fly backwards from the momentum. After the incident, the doctors had to surgically remove the mysterious rusted metal arrow lodged within Lisa's right eye, as well as gouge out the entire marred eye to prevent further infection. Now, every time Lisa stared into the mirror, she finally got the joke. With one eye open and one damaged eye shut, it looked like she was permanently winking. I am still here. I am still here in this prison. still here. From misery I cannot depart.
Alisco.
This misery,
Aliska Taska.
this misery has taken me
Aliska Duski.
where God does not see.
Askolaska Duski.
This longing
Zaliska Tabatu Kalakiri.
I cannot escape.
Aliski Daska Duska Lapali.
Not even death can find me. Help.
Aliska Duska
I am here where time is torment.
Aliska Duska Bavisi.
I am here before my time
Aliska Duska.
and long after.
Aliska Duska Lita Lupa.
How long I've been haunting nowhere.
Aliska Luskali Papa.
I am still where I was imprisoned.
Aliska Tapu Papa Sa.
I am still trapped in the closet. She fixed her makeup and applied a coat of hot pink lipstick on her lips as she stared at her reflection in the grimy mirror. Satisfied, she combed her silky raven black hair that she had always been proud of. She opened the wardrobe and glanced through her modest collection of gowns and dresses before choosing a dark red silk maxi dress. The hem of her dress floated around her ankles as she walked briskly to the door, slipped into her favorite pair of high heels, and opened the door. Her phone emitted a soft, melodious chime that she detested. She reluctantly took her phone from her purse and glanced at the notification bubble on her lock screen. Her body froze momentarily before she put away her phone and resumed walking. Her phone emitted another chime after she entered the stairwell. She ignored it. Her ringtone sounded. It was her favorite song. yet she did not feel the same happiness that she usually felt when hearing it. She hesitated and answered the call.
Hey, where are you?
Her boyfriend asked in a worried tone.
I saw your Facebook post just now. Are you okay? I'm coming over to your house in 3 minutes.
Her shoulders heaved. She bit her lips and ended the call. The flight of stairs ended at a heavy metal door. She ignored the white "No Trespassing" sign and pushed the door open. A frigid gust of wind smacked her across the face. She stepped onto the deserted concrete platform and paused to admire the stunning night view. The melodious chime sounded again. She took out her phone again and inhaled deeply. Someone commented on your Facebook post. Don't be such an attention whore, posting this kind of stuff just to attract views and likes. Someone commented on your Facebook post. Actions speak louder than words. Why don't you jump? Then maybe people will start taking you seriously. She screamed. Her phone smashed against the cold concrete with a sickening crunch of glass and metal. Her heart pounded in her chest painfully, each beat seemingly a stab to her bleeding heart. She gazed at the tiny shards of glass scattered on the ground and sobbed quietly as she walked away. Her phone rang, even though the shattered screen remained unlit. Her favorite song played, its melodic melody wafting to her ears. The door swung open violently and collided with the cracked concrete wall with a loud, hollow bang. He ran out of the stairwell and onto the cold, barren roof. There was a pair of high heels that was placed precariously at the edge of the roof. Fearing the worst, he approached the edge carefully. His foot stepped on something sharp. It gave way instantly and shattered into a million tiny broken shards.
When the chickens died, I thought at first it was raccoons that did it. Maybe one had got into the coop and made quick work of them. But if it was a raccoon, it would have been a total mess. They would have been torn up, feathers everywhere. They just seemed to kind of keel over, some blood leaking from their poor little beaks. It made no sense. I was deeply saddened by the loss of my chickens. It was really the only thing that made my house in the country a farmhouse. When I started finding the dead raccoons in the yard not long after, I thought maybe there was something a little bigger on the property. They would be covered in little bites from head to toe. It was strange, like nothing I'd seen before. I have 10 acres, but half of it is divided by thick tree line that leads to 5 or so acres I really don't mess with. Nothing but trees and bushes, so thick you can't see but a couple yards in. I contacted DNR. They told me there was a coyote problem this season, and to shoot them on sight if I saw them in my yard. Not much of a hunter, but I keep a 12 gauge around just in case things get crazy. Then on, I kept it loaded by the door. It was when the coyotes started showing up, I started to get worried. I found them in the same fashion as the raccoons, but worse. Their legs would be twisted, chunks missing, jaws broken, It didn't make any sense. I found myself looking to the tree line, to the dark woods behind my house. Sometimes I felt something watching me from within those trees. I called DNR again. They told me bigger game wasn't common around here, but maybe there was a squabble in the pack. After days of watching the tree line, I started to think maybe it was over. Like, whatever was there had moved on. Just as I started to put the nasty things behind me, I saw it, deep in the trees, watching me. I don't know what it was. It had the head of a deer, but the eyes bleed. And from the neck down, its flesh turns to strands of something else. Something that doesn't make sense. Its body writhes in its confinement. I can't quite make it out from afar, but I swear it looks like spider legs, tentacles. It watches me from the tree line, waiting. It's hungry. I decided in the morning I would go into the woods. I'm taking the shotgun and plenty of gasoline. I'm gonna find whatever den it lies in, and I'm gonna set it on fire. The whole woods if I have to. For my chickens, if anything. And if you find me dead, sell my property. And for the love of God, don't go past the tree line. Yesterday, I was in the park with my son. He recently turned 3. We were playing at the swing, and on the other side of the park was a lady sitting alone. Initially, she was reading a book, but after a while, she dropped the book and was just looking at us. It made me uncomfortable, but we continued playing. Right in the middle of swinging, my son jumped off and ran to her and said, "Hey, Mom," to her. I was running after him. I was calling out his name, and he ignored me while addressing her as Mom. She ignored him for a bit, and she grabbed him and started calling him son. I was boiling at this point and grabbed him from her. She then started screaming and yelling at me, saying that Jaden was actually her son. I don't know what came over me, but I punched her in the face and she dropped. I'm still shaken up by this entire thing. We've moved around the country a lot, and now I remember that we used to live in this neighborhood before I found Jaden. We're leaving now. He's hiding in my shopping cart as we usually do. He's been crying since he saw that lady and thinks she's his mom. What do I do now? It's so scary, isn't it?
It was the 1-year anniversary of the accident that left him in a coma. Not a finger had moved, not a tendon nor a toe, not a muscle had flexed, not a knuckle or a bone. Machine made of flesh, soul bound in sinew,
as lifeless as the dead, as cold as woe. He lay trapped in the labyrinth, silent within himself. He was oblivious to her caress and deaf to her poetry.
Remember when you used to read to me?
She asked him.
We'd be all snuggled up under a blanket by the fireplace,
she said as he lay motionless beside her, his glazed eyes half closed, focused on an image of the two of them together that was etched into his mind, of a day and time thousands of miles away, which was never coming back.
God,
she said.
I used to love the sound of your voice.
She reached into her purse and produced a wad of folded papers. She held them close to her chest for a moment, seeming to be catching her breath, before carefully opening them and beginning to read to him.
The thunder boomed like the murmuring of some great gargantuan beast. The sky, hidden by dark and ominous clouds, seemed to form a tribunal of frowning faces. The sea was as hungry as a thing with uncountable numbers of tentacles reaching at the main decks of an oak wood vessel which teemed with life. Life which, were it not for its cunning and charms of vessel's captain, would have ended long ago.
She read.
Do you remember writing this?
She asked.
You should. It's one of your best, my most favorite.
She continued to read to him, pausing every so often to look for some sign of a response, any sign of life, maybe a glimmer of that old bashful smile he smiled. Every minute she could stay after visiting hours was a little gift wrapped inside an earlier promise to wait for him forever. The room smelled like scented candles and was lit to create a mood that would waken the animal inside him. She lies safe, cuddling in his arms, feeling more like a schoolgirl than the sophisticated woman she was. She handed him a few sheets of paper, folded in half.
Read this to me,
she pleaded, in an innocent-sounding voice. In her mind, he began without the hesitation that would reveal how nervous he truly was. She once reminded him that people can't always admit how badly they need to be touched. There's something feral in the way he would look at her, something animal about the way he moves, guided by a lustful hunger. He's calm like a bomb, and she is wildfire. His fingers slowly find their way up her body like the legs of a spider, new to the web. Her flesh is soft and warm, inviting to the touch. She's patient with him for now, allowing him room to explore, to find the grace in discovering the perfection of her body. Slick lips moistened in anticipation began to twitch and quiver as he drew nearer and nearer to his intended target. He read in a medium tone. His memory kept her warm in his bed at night, while hope became reason enough to breathe each day. Not a day had gone by in those 2 years that she didn't come to visit his bedside. Not a night was to pass without his name in her prayers. No fantasy was fulfilled without his fingers running through her hair and the sound of his voice in the evening air. a slinky red thing she wore, clicking and stepping down the hall of the hospital, turning everyone's heads as she made her way to room 913. Hearts went boom, chicka boom as she waltzed down the hall. Tongues hit the floor and eyes were begging for more.
Looks like someone has a visitor,
the nurse mused before taking her leave and shutting the door. The shades fell almost as quickly as her clothes did. She lifted his polka dot gown and straddled him, exposing her hapless honey.
Are you sleeping?
She whispered into his ear, beginning to gyrate slowly. She was red hot, wet, and oh so soft in the middle. Just the mere smell of him was enough to bring her to the edge of her first climax. She grabbed a hold of his left hand and placed it on her right breast, his right hand on her left hip. Harder and harder she would grind against him.
I know you're in there,
she said to him, kissing his cheek. Inborn functions defunct. He would never laugh with her or know again what it is like to cry with her. Purged of receptivity and robbed of all reflex, he will never reach out to her again. The picture of atrophied anatomy, he will never carry her over the threshold the way they once talked about. The infinite agony of inactivity, he will never again feel the tingling of her kisses behind his ear. All effects of stimuli nullified, spirit wrapped in skin, mummified. Never again, never again.
So, the diffuse axonal injury, this is the tearing and swelling of the delicate tissue connecting the brain.
The doctor began.
This enables neural impulses, thoughts, movement. This results from the kind of severe head trauma that your husband has suffered. Less than 10% of people with this type of coma ever wake up, and even less regain normal functionality.
The doctor noticed her 1,000-yard stare.
It's okay. You don't have to decide right now,
the doctor said sympathetically.
I'm sorry.
She said, shaking her head.
I'm going to have to call you back. It's just...
I understand. Take your time,
the doctor said to her in an attempt to console her.
It's a big decision to make. You have my number. I'll be here for whenever you're ready or need to talk it through.
She hung up the phone, took down a photograph off the front of her desk. It was taken long ago, in a less confusing and less difficult time. She removed the picture from its frame and read the note written on the back of it.
Till the day I die,
she said, reading the note written on it. Her eyes instantly began welling up with tears. He resides in a lonely place now, a place of eternal torment, naked and cold and abandoned. Her name is still branded upon his flesh. She is like a fading dream come sunrise, a distant echo of a blessing that has lost its significance. Running through the darkness, barely able to keep up with his own shadow, his flesh falls away like the layers of rotting fruit, only to be shrouded by infinite shades of dementia. He finds himself running both towards as well as away from something, never stopping, never resting long enough to make sense of it. Always and forever running. The sound of laughter, once sweeter than the sound of music, has become mocking and malicious. He is stained, scarred, and sucked dry. She woke up around 8, fixed her hair the way he liked it, and wore a dress that he had picked out for her to wear. She had decided to bring the perfume in the pink bottle because it was the last gift her lover had given her before the car accident 6 years ago. Also, it hid the fact that she had taken up smoking again. Yet another of his ideas. She held him close and planted a kiss on his lips.
Hey, are you ready for this?
He asked her, with slightly more than a sliver of concern in his voice.
Yeah, I'm ready,
she said, sounding a bit timid, but sure of the direction she was heading, and committed to the decision she had taken 6 years to make. Oblivious to both the paramount and the trivial, unresponsive to the world around him, he is adrift in his own doomed reality, deep sleep calamity. What good are eyes that cannot see, or ears that cannot hear? What possible benefit could be housed inside such a body with only a heart to feel, if all that heart can feel is desire accompanied by fear, pain, and loss inconsolable? He lay there in the same hospital bed he had lost consciousness on that fateful day. Nothing but the linen had changed. He had grown a beard, but one of the nurses who volunteered to take care of his grooming had since shaved it off. His toenails and fingernails were all kept neat and trim, as were his teeth, as they were brushed for him at least once a day.
So, how are we feeling today?
The nurse asked him.
I know the feeling.
The nurse said to herself as she wheeled in his lunch.
I feel the same way every Sloppy Joe Wednesday. But how do you ever expect to get your hands on one if you just don't let the rest of the world know you're alive in there?
She stood in the doorway for a moment, watching with a nostalgic expression painted on her face, wondering if he remembered when she used to feed him. Thinking back some 2.5 years ago, work and life had wedged themselves between many of the precious rituals after the accident. Finally noticing her in the doorway, the nurse left the room so that the three could have some privacy. It had been nearly 3 weeks since her last visit. She had become less consistent about visiting. Sometimes she would come late, smelling of smoke and cheap perfume.
I had this weird dream last night,
she said to him.
I dreamed the doctors called me at work and told me there had been change in your condition. When I got here, you were awake. You thought I was a pirate, then you thought I was a detective, and then a librarian. Almost got yourself transferred into the psych ward till I showed them all those stories you used to write.
She laughed and shook her head.
So, I thought you should know,
she began in a deadly serious tone.
I've, met someone new.
Okay, I'll wait outside,
said the tall man with the faint scar below his cheek. She held onto his sleeve and led him back to the bedside, where she took her usual seat.
Honey,
she said with a slight trembling in her voice.
This is Johnny.
She paused for a moment after the introduction, half expecting a scowl or a look of disbelief to appear on his face. Perhaps the disbelief resided solely within her. There was a time when even the thought of this moment seemed foreign to her. Yet here she was, and here they were, about to pull the plug that had kept hope dangling in front of her heart for 6 long and agonizing years.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
She heard him say.
No, it does not end like this. Not after everything. Not after you said. Not after you said.
She could see him shaking his finger at her and shaking his head in complete and utter disappointment.
Okay, I get it.
He said, beginning to laugh.
This is another one of your little tests, right? You want to see how much I love you. I have to get up out of this bed and kick this guy's ass?
He said to her, still laughing. Yet the room was silent.
Why, babe? Why you want to do this?
He began to plead with her as his smile seemed to fade.
Don't you still love me? What happened to everything we planned? Are we going to get married in Hawaii? What happened to everything we planned?
She knew better than to respond. She knew that anything she said would make things worse. She knew that even if she wanted to change her mind, that Johnny would find a way to talk her into going through with the decision anyway. Most important, she knew that her old lover's voice was only in her head. His hand still lost between hers. He lay next to her as still as a stone and as unthinking and unfeeling as a vegetable.
From the town I grew up in, I could see Mount Fuji. Ever since I was a little kid, I liked to just sit and gaze at it. It was so big and so beautiful. Just the sight of it was enough to make me feel fresh and new again. And after staring at it all day, I dreaded the thought of going home. Our house was a gloomy mess. The place was just dripping with grease. The grease would get on my shoes and on my hands. Not to mention how it would smear. Dad ran a barbecue joint out of the first floor. The ventilation in the shop was just horrible, so the greasy air seeped upstairs and hung around. Everything in the place, from the walls down to the furniture, was soaked, coated in this sticky, yellowing grease. Mom had long since gone, so there was never any cleaning done. The futons in our closet were always stained and sticky. It didn't matter how often we did our laundry. Before long, it'd get all greasy again. To top it off, Dad was a seriously oily guy. And he had the strangest smell. A greasy smell. My brother was 2 years older than me. He was a sadistic little freak. When Dad wasn't home, he wouldn't leave me alone. Also, he picked up a seriously weird habit. He'd get into the kitchen, open the cupboards, and get out the salad oil. Then, he would drink that down like it was Coca-Cola.
Hey, you spying on me, huh? Don't you say a word to Dad. Not if you don't want more of this.
Those sticky walls, that gross smell coming off my old man, and my greased up bully of a brother. Grease. I started to hate this stuff. Gradually, I became sensitive to it. I even became aware of the amount of oil in the air in my room. I started to be able to detect it. The current saturation level is at 50%, now exceeding 50%. Please be careful around open flames. The name I coined was saturation level for the density of the oil vapor in the air. The one day I crept into my brother in the kitchen and he was just guzzling down that oil. Saturation levels now approaching 60%. Saturation level now approaching 60%. My brother soon hit puberty and he got his first pimples. I remember him looking into the mirror, picking at each individual zit. I saw him do a most wretched thing. He popped the zit and out squirted all kinds of pus. Eventually, the zit spreaded all over his face. The next day, her brother was walking to school. On his way, two girls saw him and couldn't help but chuckle at his face. Then next, he got jumped by bullies. "Hey, don't you come anywhere near us, Goro. You're a crater face, man. God, this kid's gotten grease all over me. You're paying for that. 50,000 yen. By tomorrow. Got it?" My God, what a loser. I looked over at my brother to see him crying, and then he caught me spying. I slowly went around the corner, and he only gave me a melancholic look. No!
You were laughing at me, weren't you? You were thinking I had it coming, thought I deserved that, didn't you?
Goro, enough! Get off me!
I've been contaminated by your filthy grease! It's your fault my face is like this! It's your fault! Man up and admit it! Old man! Stupid!
Goro pinned him down, but the old man would not go down without a fight. He chucked him over. But Goro ferociously fought back.
Screw you!
After the fight was over, I found my dad sitting against the dresser.
Yuri, bring your dad a towel, would you?
Listening to his request, I fetched a towel. He used it to clean up his face, but with no avail. The grease just kept oozing out of his skin. Later that night, Goro snuck into the kitchen, guzzling down more of those oily substances. After that, my brother holed himself up in his room, and day after day, he drank and drank.
Get your ass in here! Yuri? Yuri?
Goro, what's wrong?
We're out of grease. Go out and buy us some. And a new futon, too! How much longer you want me to sleep in this one? It's a goner. God! Ah! You're stressing me out! Damn it!
As he clutched his face, each and every one of those pimples emitted a projectile ooze flying straight at me. Ugh! Oh my God, gross!
Huh? What was that? You called me gross, didn't you? Right, I get it now. You think my body is gross, huh? All greasy like this. I've got an idea. How about I give you a taste?
No! Goro! Please, don't! He proceeded to pin me down beneath his greasy, oily body. Then, what he did next shocked me to the core. He grasped his face between each of his palms and hands, pushing until the zits began to squash. The grease protruded from his face in a stringy, glue-like structure, curling around my face, consuming it with grease.
Let it rain grease, baby! Let it rain grease! Crater face is erupting, baby! You watch. I'll kill every last one of you! Serves you right. Think you're better than me? You all do. I'm going down as the foulest villain the world has ever seen. Everybody has to die. Send me to hell. Go on. I want you to. Bring on the lake of fire. No one can fry like me. My black greasy smoke will choke the whole damn place. And everyone in it. The soot alone would be enough to fill Mount Fuji up to the brim and come pissing out the top. And I'm kicking it all off with you. Gross, huh? This is what you get.
Please, Goro, stop.
Yeah?
And just like that, Goro was knocked out cold, grease emitting from his face, pouring out all over the floor.
Forgive me, Goro. What choice did I have? Yui, give your dad a hand. You take that side.
Later that night. Well, it's been a while since we've been out for barbecue. Sounds good. Well, there was one place. What was the name of it again? Ah, Dharma Barbecue. Dharma? Nah. Shop's dirty meat sucks. Forget that place. That was before. You should try it now. The marbling on some of this meat. Huh? Really? Well, let's give it a shot. The two of them showed up at Dharma Barbecue. Evening, boss. 2 plates of the good stuff.
I must apologize. We're fresh out as of yesterday, I'm afraid.
Huh? What? So when are you getting it in next?
Well,
Back at the house. Saturation levels now at 70%. 70%. That's about the time that they started. These strange dreams. They start with me taking in the sight of Mount Fuji. Then, all of a sudden, I hear the loud sound. The volcano begins to smoke and then erupt. The liquid from the volcano erupts right out from the top, spewing out all atop of the village and toward me. I seriously try my best in the dream to escape this liquid, but then it catches up to me and I'm submerged in it. Grease! It's grease! After that, the whole city's consumed. I try my best to chug my body through the thick lard. Not even the wildlife is safe from this. Greetings, citizens. This is a citywide saturation level report. The current levels are steadily at 90%. Citizens are advised to be careful in the presence of naked flames. It was always the same. I remember it vividly. So vividly, as a matter of fact, that I'd feel sick for a while after. And even after walking, the sight of such a beautiful mountain, it never quite cheered me up the way that it used to. The grease, it just consumed my life. God, I feel sick. I looked into the mirror, and just like with Goro, I was beginning to form zits. Ew! I pinched it, and pus emerged. Before I knew it, they had spread all over my face, and I hauled myself up in my room.
Yui, are you still feeling ill? Maybe it wouldn't hurt to get out and take a walk once in a while, you know?
Oh my god, Dad! Would you shut up and get out of my room? He stopped for a moment and then he left the room. Current saturation levels are at 80%. Saturation levels 80%. Then that dream occurred again. The grease consumed my body whole. Ah, no, please, it's the grease, not the grease. Then, just like that, I woke up to a bottle of grease in my mouth. My father above me, shoving grease down my throat.
Come on! Drink up! Drink, Huey!
No! Dad, what the hell are you doing? What the hell?
Sorry. The grease. Oh, you're awake?
Why, Dad? Why?
I thought you might be hungry is all. It's no big deal, really.
Hungry? Even if I was, Dad, I don't drink grease. I'm not Goro.
He was the one who liked it, not you. That's right.
Wait, how long have you been doing this to me? I've been feeling sick all the time lately. Dad? Have you been trying to make me drink it? You haven't you? Why? Just why? No way.
What? Listen to yourself. It's late already. I'm going to bed.
I couldn't believe what had happened. I tried to correct my composure. He so was. Dad wants me to be like Goro. After that, I was on guard. It was no longer safe for me to sleep. Dad would peer into my room sometimes, but I would be up, just sitting there in a fetal position until he'd close the door. After a bit of time, my dad eventually closed the store, putting a sign on the front door. Then, I caught him. He was drinking the oil, just chugging it like Goro.
A barbecue restaurant? Are you kidding me? Enough! I'm out.
The restaurant was closed, and yet, the saturation levels in the house hadn't dropped a single bit. My father's skin got greasier and greasier. I could feel the saturation levels increase just by going near him. The water he left in the bath had a thick film of grease on the top. And don't even get me started with the futon in the wardrobe. It got even filthier than before. The saturation levels in the house had held steadily at 90% or higher. The grease dripping from the ceiling looked like a slow falling rain. And, at last, one day it finally happened. Huh? What's that sound? I peered around the corner, slowly walking down the stairs, until I looked into the kitchen. What I saw, I couldn't believe my eyes. I saw Dad with a cleaver in his hand. He was missing his leg, and it was oozing out grease. His leg was atop of the counter, and he held a cleaver. He slashed it against the table. As the grease continued to drip from his body, the yellow-brown goop gushing out of the end of my father's leg was no longer blood, but grease, only grease. Saturation levels are now at 100%. Saturation levels, 100%.
Subscribe, like, comment, share, and I'll see you next week with a brand new episode of The Scary Show.